Okay, so is everyone sitting comfortably?
Sure.
Astrid?
Yeah.
Good, good.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Friday Frontier, where we are joined, as per usual, by Claire and by Astrid.
Hello.
Hello.
Who play Rothammerflaw and Flurry, respectively. Centaur, Paladin, not Paladin, and Firbolg Monk. And we're rejoining our intrepid duo along with a, I believe it's a halfling traveling companion and a dwarf who are you guys have been traveling with due to the fact, unfortunately, the rest of the members of your little caravan were unfortunately indisposed by an encounter with a banshee. And your travels have brought you, I believe had you reached the edge of the forest, or had you progressed through some of the plains?
I think we got to the edge of the forest.
Okay. So it's taking you about a good, 4 or 5 days a week or so to get to the edge of this forest. But you and I believe, Flo, you found some like mud hot spring, like some hot warm mud pools essentially as well at the end of the last episode. But your little camp that you've set up for the evening is at the very edge of this forest, rolling plains stretching out ahead of you as far as the eye can see, and just off slightly to the left you can see what the beginnings of the coastline as well. You've had a long rest and you're at the fresh morning, and already the dwarf is getting ready for the cart to move. Clay, you must remind me, how long does your fine steed last for?
Until I dismiss it.
So is there not an upward limit on how long that lasts for as well?
I can double check for you.
If you wouldn't mind double checking for me, that would be super.
It's an action to release your steed from a bond.
So it doesn't have an upward.
Decide.
Okay. So the dwarf is already hooking the horse up to the cart to begin moving forward again.
His name is Jeff.
His name is Jeff. The halfling has begun making everyone's breakfast, and it's about prepared by the time both of you awake.
Mm-hmm. I'm just stretching for the day.
There's a loud gong noise as the small halfling is like ringing around and like smacking the side of the breakfast tray with the wooden spoon. Grabs up.
I give him a dirty look. You do know things live in the forest, right?
Yeah, loud noises scare off the little wild ones.
Yes, that is not what I heard. They can also attract things.
Well, you best wake up then.
Do I look asleep to you?
I don't know, you certainly don't look aware.
I roll my eyes.
Get some grub in you, you'll be fine.
I just grab a bow, sit down.
Fair enough. The dwarf plods over heavily, hoisting its axe over his shoulder. Can't be too careful around here. He also scoops up a bowl and just starts like sipping from this. It very much strikes you guys as just being the broth from the other night has been essentially reheated with some additional flavorings added to it to keep it good, and to add just a little bit of flavor to make it not taste exactly like it's just a rinse and repeat from the previous evening.
I don't think Roth cares. I think he just eats.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The dwarf looks at you guys and looks out over the plains. Well, at least we can see the weather in front of us now. Hey, that's something going for us.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it's flat. It should be good going. I mean, yeah, there's some grasses, but as long as we keep in gear, keep moving forward, it'd be good. It'd be good. Yeah, at least this time we didn't come out by in the forest by too close to the coast where they've got the haunted tower. That's good. So
Haunted
Yes.
yes, the haunted tower. The less
What?
over that one, the better.
All right. Just in that case, make sure we don't go too close.
He nods, but points like straight ahead, like banking slightly towards the coastline. Essentially, we just got to follow the coast until we get to the or follow the coast in that way up until we get to the mountains. So if we cut this way, we should, straight across. Should take us like what, 2 weeks?
That is not awful.
No, it's not too bad. As long as we make good time, we don't get too many of them unquite dead things getting up from the battlefields around here.
You mean like before?
Not the whaling thing; they're quite uncommon. I've only seen one of them before in my days, and well, she's probably older than the war. I'll tell you that much. I more meant the from the Dragon Queen War. Those skeletons and zombies and stuff may still be rotting in the soil under the grasses here.
Right, shut up.
So best watch where you put your feet in hooves, guys, gals, because last thing you want to do is wake him up. Because they'll outrun
Yes, we
us.
did that once.
Yeah, they might not outrun us, but they might, some of them. But if they don't, they'll certainly keep going longer than we can.
Oh, good.
It's best tread carefully.
And if you can't tread carefully, that'd be damn effective at killing things or re-killing things.
Yes.
I think we managed. Fair enough.
Well, enough jibber jammer. Little and get this fucking pot up on the cart and we'll get moving. The halfling looks at the large pot and was like, fine, I'll get it moving. Picks it up. It's still warm to the touch, but they pick it up without really caring and waddle over. This pot is clearly too large for them to be carrying normally. And they push it up onto the cart and into like a hot stand in the cart for it so it doesn't slosh around too much.
I watch him struggle with this. I decide not to help because he was a dick to me about 5 minutes ago.
What's your oath?
Glory.
Okay, fair enough.
I'll give him a hand.
No, thank you. You tall folk and your mechanical advantage.
Yes, it is good to be bigger.
Tell that to him. He points at the dwarf. Podgy lout.
I think if I tell him, he would not like this.
I don't think he would, but I think it'd be funny.
Perhaps later tonight.
Okay. Maybe after he's had his meal, that might be a good idea.
After he has helped us pack.
Yeah, that's an idea.
Mm.
Righty-ho. And if you guys are ready to set off, we're going to do some more travel mechanic. So, would you both care to roll me initiative, please? Because this way I can keep track of whose turn it is.
Oh, good, because initiative is something I'm really good at. That would be a 7. Or rough.
I got a 23.
Someone roll me a d20 plus 2, please.
That is an 11.
Perfect, thank you. So, 27, 23. and 11. So, Astrid, you get to do our first D100 roll of the evening.
Hooray!
Hooray, indeed. As for our viewers, this is recorded in the evening. So
D100.
30.
That's a 30.
Making me consult my books this evening, Astrid.
I don't care you blame Astrid for this, and yet
I
it doesn't matter what
apologize.
you rolled, you'd still have to consult the book.
I actually knew a certain percentage.
Yeah.
You guys normally roll really damn high, so I knew a certain number of them.
All the very, very terrible ones.
No further comment, Your Honour. Here we go. Remind me quickly, please. What level are you?
We are 5, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, you have your first day where nothing happens. The second day begins, and as you're trudging through this open plains and grassland, getting slightly closer towards the coast, Flora, you start hearing this really low, just resonant buzzing noise. She's like, that's really quite annoying.
Yes. Is it bug-like?
You'd know this is quite big to be a bug.
Mm-hmm.
So this buzzing just continues to reverberate. It goes steadily louder until Roth and the dwarf and the halfling will notice it, and they sort of start looking around.
What is that noise?
I'm not sure. I look at the dwarf. He seems to know what's going on around here.
The large dwarf shifts around and goes, "Oh, I thought they were further. Excuse me, I thought they were further north this time of year."
They?
Yeah. Do you not have any ranged weapons?
I look at my sword and my hammer.
I look at my stuff in my hands.
The halfling's like, "I've got some knives." The dwarf just sighs. Right. He makes sure the lid stays on the pot. In the grass, or the lot of you, get down. He tries to get the horse to lay down on its side.
Mm-hmm. I go do as horse does.
Okay. You guys can roll me stealth checks if you wish to do this.
Oh, this will go well. Armor am I wearing? You must be wearing armor. I have an armor skill. That might not be so bad. I just need to double check something. I don't think
What armor did you have on?
half plate.
Oh dear, Claire.
It's not. It's a medium armor.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
So does it say on there you don't have the penalty? It's on the yellow bit.
I'm.
This is a disadvantage. So
So that would be a
Oof.
3, yes. I am a horseman.
yeah.
Stealth isn't my game.
So this buzzing, as you all hit the dirt, this buzzing grows louder and deeper as a pair of giant wasps buzz into the area. And they seem to. It's not that you didn't see them coming, as in fact they were buzzing low enough. They look like they were blending as part of the grass. And as they've seen the cart, they've risen up and have clearly come to investigate. To begin with, they buzz straight past or round you, almost unrealizingly just staying out of your range, as they buzz and round the pot of food. Then one of them shifts, and you become very aware they are now looking at or reacting to Roth's presence. Flurry, what would you like to do as these wasps are going to lash out or attempt to move forward to lash out at Roth from the looks of it?
How useful would that be? No. I would like to ready an action
Mm-hmm.
that if I assume I am quite close to Roth.
I was assuming you're walking, you'd stay relatively close together, yeah?
Yeah. So if one seems to attack Roth, I will hit them with my quarterstaff.
Okay.
I don't want to alert them to where I am yet, so.
That's fair. Roth, both these wasps nip over to you, one of them triggering Flurry's held action. So if you'd like to make the swooping boop, you may.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're hidden from them, you will have advantage. 25 will
25.
definitely hit.
For 10 damage.
I crack this wasp right in its midsection as it buzzes past. You feel like it's slightly like solid exterior, almost like its shell, that crack, and like you see it's like this odd blue purple blood begins seeping through where you just smacked it. You very much get the impression you just really hurt this thing with a single swing. And they will, however, both attempt to lash out at Roth. Roth, you're technically prone, which means they're at advantage.
Mm-hmm.
What's your armor class?
18.
I'm glad to know all of their sting attacks miss.
I just shoved my shield up.
Mm-hmm. And they just ping off your shield with no real issue.
Mm-hmm.
Which takes us to you, Roth. You are still prone.
I would like to rectify that since they already know where I am.
Okay. Roth, would you like to stand up?
Yes. Then I would like to stab them.
Okay. Which one are you going for first?
I don't know if he would know which one.
One of them is very clearly now injured because it's like openly bleeding from a chest wound.
He'll go for that one first.
Okay.
That is it.
You murder it.
That is a nat 20.
You murder it. It just goes down. And if you're holding your shield, you can't do that two-handed.
Oh, you're right.
But I will let you off because it is a nat 20 anyway. So
yeah. It only makes a difference on the damage.
I know, and it had 2 hit points left, so
yeah.
3 points.
And then the other one.
Mm-hmm.
For 22.
That will also hit.
For 8. I just stab it.
You stab it, and it begins to buzz more angrily.
That would be my turn.
Okay. As you guys, so just before Florry's turn, there is a moment you hear an annoyed like dwarven yell as the dwarf's axe comes out of nowhere and like just cracks straight through this wasp's back, so hard, Roth, that you see the front of the dwarf's axe blade protruding from this thing's like almost from its throat, and you just see the axe blade come through and stop there as this wasp just flops. As the wasp hits the ground, the dwarf puts his foot on it, just rips the blade back out, and goes, "Right, best push on before more of them turn up." No, it's only 2. It's probably a hive.
Hive?
Yep, they're like normal wasps. They'll have a big old hive somewhere in the grasses.
Oh, good.
Yes, let's continue.
They are irritants for sure.
Okay, and you begin to press on, which means in the grand initiative order, it is my turn to do the rolling.
Oh dear.
Watch me roll, you guys having absolutely no. The next 2 days pass without incident.
Rosh is confused by this. But happy.
I'm very confused. I rolled the nothing happens roll. Which means, Claire, it's your turn to roll. May the dice gods be ever in your favour.
We all saw how that turned out. That is a 98. I still roll high.
Now roll me a d4.
I don't like this. I won.
So as the first day of this period, this third period of 2 days rolls in, so on this auspicious 5th day, as you reach the end of the day, you guys hear this low keening noise.
Sorry. This was trouble.
And the dwarf is like, we should probably not keep fighting things every time we encounter them. Should we try and go around this?
It depends what this is, and can we?
I mean, I don't know. I can't see it.
Fine.
Would be best to be safe.
Mm-hmm.
The dwarf brings the cart to a stop. Right, who's stealthy? Who wants to go up and see what's what?
I will. Should not be a problem.
Halfling. Yeah. Go with them. Okay. The halfling jogs up to you, has like a pair of daggers. Right, let's do some sneaking.
Mm-hmm.
The halfling throws himself into the long grass and just disappears.
I do this thing where I kind of blend into the background, as long as we're in nature.
You are in nature.
Yes. What's it called?
I think you can turn yourself invisible for a certain amount of time as a furbolg if you're looking
Yeah.
for your racial trait.
Yeah.
Or your
That
species trait, depending on what you wish to call it. I think that's only for 6
Nuisance.
seconds, though.
Yeah. I'll do that when we get up close.
Okay.
When it sneak until then.
Could you roll me a stealth check?
22.
Nice. You sneak up towards the noise, and you find in what looks to be almost like a clearing inside this long grass, what looks to be a creature you have not encountered before.
What does it look like?
I will tell you in just a moment when my Roll20 decides to let me get to the image of this particular creature, because it does not like me very much today. It's actually, ironically, it's one of the ones that the Roll20 apparently doesn't want to hold any record of,
Oh.
which is moderately unusual.
Mm-hmm.
Bear with me just up. Please hold, podcast.
He is in his book.
Means I have had to resort to a physical book.
I don't actually know where my monster manual is. I usually keep it here for Zansk purposes. I have not done so.
So you find lying on its side and clearly in pain in the center of this clearing, a creature that looks, it clearly doesn't look natural to you. It's got the body of like a tiger with the stripes, but protruding, or a lion, and protruding from its back is a pair of almost draconic style wings.
Mm-hmm.
It has a long tail with spines protruding from it. At the end of the tail is like a fan of these spikes. As you look up its form past the wings to the shoulder joints, it has like a thick mane like a lion, but it has a disturbing, almost human visage to it.
Mm-hmm.
But its jaw and mouth are significantly larger. As it opens its mouth, you see it's spluttering blood, but it does have 3 separate rows of teeth on both the top and bottom of its huge mouth. It is wounded, and it appears to have been stung repeatedly by giant wasps,
Oh,
just based
no.
on the injuries you've seen. It's not aware of your presence, but it is just sort of lying there, clearly in quite a lot of pain.
Yeah.
One of its wings is bent at an odd angle. You spot the halfling after a moment, and you see they're looking at this thing, but they're also crouched next to a body, what looks to be a pile of like half-eaten giant wasps.
I'll gesture at the halfling to go back a bit so we can discuss.
The halfling looks at you and
So what
nods,
is that right here?
and then
Just
scoots back into the grasses. A couple of seconds pass. That's a big beastie.
what? Yeah. Do you know what it is?
Well, I'll tell you, I don't think it's a natural born creature originally. I think it's one of the wizard made abominations, like a, what do they call it? I guess it's like a lion. So, but it's got the face of like a person.
Yeah. It's very strange.
Perlian. I don't know.
I suppose its name does not matter. Do you think we should help it? Would it appreciate that?
I mean, creatures, from what I've been told, I've only lived out here because they're very good at killing things and finding food. I don't think they care too much for acts of kindness. I think
in that case,
it will be eaten, jobby, I'm afraid.
In that case, we should just move along, I suppose.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be a threat to us in that state.
No, I think we'd be okay.
Should we sneak back to the others?
Yeah.
Okie dokie. The halfling vanishes again into the undergrowth. Roth, a halfling appears at your hoofs. Boo!
You're hardly scary.
I'll make myself look big. The halfling reach both arms straight up over their head, trying to make themselves look big. They hardly reach your knee, Roth.
I pat it on the head.
Well, that's patronising.
We saw a big, great beast. It was hurt.
Sorry.
Oh, says the dwarf. Well, I guess we best not bother it then.
Yes, I think, according to our very scary friend here, these creatures do not usually respond well to kindness.
The little halfling's nodding, and the dwarf is just slowly nodding along with them. It's a, kill or be killed, eat or be eaten world in this part of the world now.
I suppose that's true.
You ain't gonna find creatures that want hugs and pats. They'll just take your arm off and eat that.
I would prefer to keep my arms. Let's keep going.
Yes.
Righty ho.
As long as we do not draw attention to ourselves, it should be fine.
Clank. What?
Right, off we trot. The dwarf pulls their fingers through their increasingly rough, unkempt beard. As you guys progress, this day passes then furtherly without vent, and then the next day, the 6th day, passes without any notable happenings. Flurry, this makes it your turn.
Yes. Whew. 65.
Nice. So at the beginning of the 7th day, you become increasingly aware that you guys actually can hear the sea, and you are much closer to the ocean than before. As the dwarf indicates, well, over the next rise, I suspect we find the beach. You know, then it's just a matter of hanging around the coastline, keeping it on our left, then away we go. I'd say what, another week, and we'd be at the base of the mountains.
Are we making good progress?
Make a damn good time.
That is fortunate.
Yeah, best hope the weather holds out.
I look up. Being a Central, I've been out in nature a long time.
The winds are starting to turn.
I do not think our luck will hold, Master Dwarf.
Me neither, but we best hope it holds for a little while because we ain't got much to keep ourselves out of the elements, have we?
We could always use the half thing. I smile.
Darthan's like, I'm not that big. But as you reach the end of, or towards the end of the 8th day, there is a resounding crack and a rumble.
And there goes our luck.
And in the distance to what you would sort of ahead of you in your direction of travel is what looks to be a large mass of rolling dark clouds.
Hmm.
How
What?
close does this beach path go?
What?
How close does the beach path go to the where we are?
Is that what?
How close does the beach path go to where? To the ocean.
Well, we're not going onto the beach. That'd be suicide with the cart like this heavy laden. As soon as sand gets wet, it will sink. And that's the last thing we want now. Right. Staying in the grass, at least if it's muddy, we can roll it out, whereas sand's a lot worse to shift out of. And I believe that makes it my turn to roll the D100 for the next 2 days. The next 2 days, you don't encounter any creatures, but you get the impression that's very much because you suspect they are finding and retreating to cubby holes and burrows under the grasses or into hives or other structures that they've made. As you guys are traipsing further southwest, this storm is just looming closer and closer. You are almost entirely under it by the end of the first day. And then by halfway through the second, it's as far as you can see forward and as far as you can see backward. But the rains haven't started. The winds are picking up, and you can almost feel like the just waiting for the shoe to drop, for the thunder and lightning to start. But for the moment, it hasn't. Roth.
Mm-hmm.
It is your turn to roll the D100, please.
Ready. It's a D1000.
That's a bit off my table.
That is a 51 dead center.
So partway through your first day of this next 2-day period, taking us to the night, I believe onto the 9th day.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah, somewhere around this point. You are walking, occasionally glancing up to the sky. Roth, and as you look up, you recoil as something lands in your eye.
Mm-hmm.
And there's another plop of rainwater hitting your shoulder. And then the heavens open with a boom of thunder.
Well, it has come. We knew this would be the case.
And then it starts raining. And raining. And for the rest of this 2-day period, it just keeps raining. Florrie or Astrid, would you like to roll this set of dice, please? Or this dice, please?
Mm-hmm. I rolled 49.
49. So the 11th day, it's just almost, you can't really see where you're going at this point, just because of how heavy the rainfall is. You can see maybe 10 feet in front of you for how heavy this rain is. The soil beneath your feet is laden with it to the point where it's almost like walking through a marsh. The horse is struggling to keep the cart from sinking. This horse has to keep moving now, otherwise this cart will start sinking. And then you see 2 pinpricks of a light spluttering against the darkness and the rain ahead of you. And they start getting closer. Now, you guys haven't got torches lit at the moment, as they would almost immediately be snuffed out by this weather. But you know, these are 2 what look to be dancing firelights moving towards you.
Mm-hmm.
You can both roll in perception checks, please. Perception time, guys.
14.
6 from Roth.
Roth just sees the pretty lights. Florrie, you look and keep looking, and then you hear what sounds like chattering in a language you don't understand. Well, just touch base. What languages do you speak?
I speak Common, Elvish, and Giant.
Okay, unfortunately, you definitely don't understand this language.
Yeah. I sort of gesture at the others to listen carefully. Maybe the dwarf or the halfling will recognize it. Or Roth.
Roth, what languages do you speak, please?
I speak Common and Sylvan.
You do not understand the language that's being chatted in.
There's nothing I know.
The halfling squints. I know that one. Well, I said I know it. I don't know it. I recognise it, though.
What is it?
It's a goblin.
Ah.
Didn't know there were goblins out here, little blighters.
Should we hide?
Well, I mean,
Goblins are tricksy, but...
well, they're not the smartest, but they'll certainly try and take us hostage if they can. If these are just watch goblins, it depends what you want to do. We could just kill them and move on, or we would just, we could probably hide from them. But you'll remember we've got the cart to think about as well.
Yes, probably best to see what they want then.
I mean, that's if they listen to us. If they've got the numbers, they'll just try and beat us up.
Can we tell how many?
You can
sounds
just
like?
see 2 lights.
Roth, why don't we go up ahead?
Yes.
Keep the cart safe for now. If there are too many, we can always fall back.
Yes, that would make sense. I take on a shield. I put my backpack on the cart.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And you're heading forward to see what's going on.
Yeah.
And so you both head forward. as you continue moving forward, these lights do become essentially like torches being held by a pair of goblins. When they see you emerging from the darkness and the rain, they look up and they start chattering at you in Goblin. One just immediately draws their scimitar from a sheath, and the other one is looking at you and is saying some stuff in Goblin and pointing at the ground.
What?
Enough, little ones.
No, you speak like this, do you? This
Clearly.
filthy tongue. What you doing in our land?
Walking.
Yeah? What are you
just
doing it here
took my
for?
Because it is our path.
Well, it's not your path, is it? It's our land. Therefore, it's our path. And we say, they look at the other goblin and speak in the language you guys don't understand, and we say there's a toll.
I look to Flurry. That's funny, Flurry. I seem to remember there being a king who owns this land. I don't remember him being little and green.
No,
I'm
he
not
was quite tall.
green. Are you taking the mick? I ain't green.
Excuse me, it is dark.
Have you now a positive shade of burgundy?
I remember the king being white.
You mean King Big Scale?
Yes.
Don't care. He's not as strong as Boss. So you can take your big king scale, blah, 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 as the goblin says. I hate this language. You can take your big king big scale, and you can jog the hell on once you've paid your damn toll.
I just kind of turn to Flurry.
Flurry is very amused.
I wonder what King Big Scale would make of this determination that he is not the strongest in the land. Perhaps we should arrange a challenge.
You can just pay your toll.
How much is your toll?
2 weeks worth of food.
I just laugh at them.
Yeah.
Are you not strong enough to hunt your own food?
We are. We just want yours.
That does not make much sense.
Makes perfect sense. Means we have extra food just in case the weather gets bad.
The weather is already bad.
Get worse.
Does your king not provide you?
What?
Your boss, your king. If he is so powerful, he should provide you and yours with enough food.
Quite right.
You not?
He does. You're here, aren't you?
Mm.
He told us to stand here and wait, and someone with food would come along. So that's why your toll is your food.
Ah. Yes, that
Thus,
is
boss has provided.
Well, it seems
extremely logical.
that
Let
their
me
boss is
let
taking
me
advantage
put
of
it
them.
another way for you. You can give us the damn food nicely, or we can kill the halfling and the dwarf.
You can try.
Boys, 6 goblins drag the halfling and the dwarf up behind you guys. The dwarf looks mildly perturbed by this situation, as it's taking 4 of the 6 to hold him in place. The halfling is looking mildly. Is essentially only being held by the arms by 2 of these goblins, and is seemingly being slightly more willing about being pulled around places.
So what you're saying is your boss makes you do all the hard work.
Well,
And I bet you barely see any of that food.
it's not really hard work. We just stood here and waited for you to come along.
This weather,
Wouldn't you like
I
to
would
be
not like that.
warm, dry?
I could do that.
not stood out here at the orders of your boss, you couldn't.
I mean, I could, because once we've taken your food, and, you know, if you don't pay the toll, we'll just kill you and skin you and use your innards for tent top.
I just laugh again.
The goblin is entirely straight-faced to this encounter.
Oh, dear. Little ones, I think you've picked the wrong fight.
The halfling pipes up and goes, I don't think they're very lucky, really. Do you?
No.
The dwarf's just like, I do love my axe.
Sorry, perhaps we should introduce ourselves. I am Roth Hammerfall, protector of the clan.
Okay.
That is a dwarf with a very big axe. Flora here likes to punch things. And the halfling, well, he's very good with his knives.
So, what you're saying to me, the goblin says, is you're an accident between a wizard human and a horse. That one got lost somewhere through a glue and, you know, a bear trap. They're pointing at Flurry. That one is just vertically challenged and like stabby things. And that one's just a fat dwarf with a stereotypical axe thingamajiggle. We all
Let's
know.
turn around and sit on him. Done. I would like to park my horse's ass on his head.
Okay, you go to sit on the goblin. He tries to like throw himself towards like no, and there's just a crunch as you just sit on the goblin. And there's a moment of the four of the goblins that are holding the dwarf are like, what? And the two that are holding the gnome just, the halfling just slacken just enough. Florrie, you just see the halfling just suddenly turn, and you hear both goblins gurgling as there's two daggers just shoved essentially up out of the halfling's sleeves into the goblins' throats as they like gurgle and fall backwards. And the dwarf is still just stood there as all these goblins are holding him still, like, and they go to start punching him. He's like, Bertha, sick 'em. And the axe just appears almost like Thor's hammer and just just slashes straight through two of them. And he catches it with his now freed hand. He looks at the other two. Boo, is all that the dwarf says.
I'm just looking at the other one. That's with me and Flurry.
This is the one that hasn't spoken. It's holding this little torch, and it's just like it just throws the torch at Flurry and runs away.
We should probably move.
Yes.
The dwarf's just like, guys, I've got two of them on my arm. These goblins are like, huh?
You can run now.
They let go and just hands in the air, they just run for their lives.
I get up.
The halfling's like, one of those wasn't even a dagger. He puts his foot on one of the goblins and just pulls out like a spit roasting fork. It's like, it's all I could grab off the cart.
You will clean that before we eat again, right?
The goblin blood was flavouring. He's wiping it on his trouser leg.
Shall we continue?
Please.
The dwarf has like a black eye. Yeah, let's. And so you return to the cart and the horse. Roth, the horse is like, well, that was boring.
Oh, I don't know. I got to sit down.
As Roth stands up, the goblin that is sat under him, that he's sat on, is just like, it's bent at a weird angle and isn't moving. That's a dead goblin.
That's too talkative.
So you guys begin heading off again through the rain. It takes the horse a couple of minutes to get the cart out of where it's sunk slightly. But there's a wet squelch as you guys set off again. I believe Who rolled the last 100? Was it? It was you, wasn't it, Astrid?
I was me. Yeah.
Which means it's my turn. As that would have taken us into the 12th day, so this might actually be the last dice round before you guys get to the mountains. Oh boy, and then Clay gets the privilege of the mountain dice roll. Oh, Clay, you lucky, lucky you.
Mm-hmm.
So for the 13th day, despite the numbers predetermination for bad luck, the weather overhead finally breaks, and you can see quite how waterlogged this area has become. It is sodden, to put it politely. It is very much like walking through like a marsh. Each one of your foot or hoof steps squelches, and you almost at some points you're almost wading through water. But nothing happens. And as you reach toward the end of that day, as the sun begins to set, the sky is almost clear, and you suddenly become aware of the fact that there are mountains looming not too far away. The dwarf heaves a sigh of relief. He takes off one of his boots and he just tips it over the side of the cart, and just water pours out. He puts his boot back on. He repeats this motion with the other boot. Right. One day I make a bay at the base of the mountain, and then we have a choice to make.
What choice is that?
Through the mountain pass or down through the forest.
Did we not decide previously the forest was safer?
I mean, probably, but after the trip we've had, it's entirely up to you guys. If you want to keep doing that, that's fine. I mean, I'm pretty sure the pass will be quicker, but... But the 14th day passes, and you reach a point where the rolling fields have given way to a mountain that stands almost on the very edge of the coastline, where the beach, there is almost like a thin strip of land separating what is almost an impossibly steep incline. There is a small section of land that separates that from the beach. And the dwarf sort of, right, once we get past that, there's a path just beyond it that will take us, if we head straight west, will take us up into the pass, or we can stay on the footlands and end up in the forest.
Alex, Flurry, what do you think?
I do not have much experience with mountains. Forest seems more familiar, but if the mountain is quicker, perhaps it is worth it.
What is the path like for the horse and the cart? And myself.
The mountain,
Mm.
be stone, be much easier on you and be having to pull yourself out of the mud.
I look at my hooves.
You have mud up to like 3/4 left your shin. The halfling actually survived this whole water experience much better than you guys because they're lighter. They have not been subject to sinking into the mud so much. They've just had a bit more of a time with the actual water part of this, as they're far more sodden than the rest of you. But you reach round the base of this mountain to this point where you can see there is a path that snakes more steeply upward into the mountains, and one that's essentially just a little better than a divot in the grass that leads almost directly south along the foothills. Right, well, best we set up camp here and decide in the morning then, eh?
Yes.
Shelter of the mountain too, so no wind, which would be nice for a change.
It's just getting used to it.
Well, you can enjoy the plains later. So, you guys, the halfling sets up a full fire because they acknowledge the fact, of course, that this might be a bad idea because of the amount of people or creatures that might see it, but they're cold, soaked to the bone, and they've managed to keep some of the logs they were carrying dry. So why wouldn't they?
It is better not to make ourselves ill.
Yeah, course. The dinner that night is almost better than what you normally get. The halflings clearly tried something new as a celebration, and it didn't quite pan out. They tried, though, bless them. But that night passes uneventfully. And the morning comes round, and you need to make your decision.
I think we should try the mountain.
Yes, I believe you are right. The horse will find it easier.
Yes.
Feels so unnatural, though.
What's the dwarf's name again? I keep forgetting.
So right, so do I.
Good.
No, you edited these last. What's the dwarf's name?
He had a weird
Hadn't got to
nickname.
that part.
I had a weird nickname.
Hadn't got to that part.
I hadn't gotten to that part. That's fair. We will just call him Podge for the time being.
I will edit. I will catch up on editing and let us all know next week.
Next week, next episode, where we can remember how bad the DM is at remembering the names of a number of his NPCs. This is why this one's now being nicknamed Podge.
Podge.
Podge the dwarf.
I feel like Dwarfist.
I want to ask him if he is more familiar with mountains. What he knows about mountains. Does he know about
The
mountains?
dwarf looks at you and you assume I know about mountains because I'm a dwarf.
Roth just nods.
Yes.
The dwarf laughs. Says, unfortunately, I'm a hill dwarf, not a mountain dwarf.
There's a difference.
Yes,
thought they were just
one's
dwarfs.
rocky and pointy, one's soft and rolling.
Much like you. I pat him on his belly.
The dwarf pauses. The halfling loses their shit and starts just laughing. The dwarf, you see the faint, like, under the beard, you see the skin go a slightly rosier tint of red. I mean, I hate it when people are right. There's a hefted sigh. I'm not bad at these paths. I mean, I'll be honest, I've used both. Though if I know Regan and Raffinius, they will probably be watching the mountains, whereas I suspect they'll have. He pauses, Patience and Greg watching the forest. So it's up to you, really.
Let's try the mountain then.
He nods and guides the horse towards the mountain path. And you guys begin ascending up this. It begins as a muddied sort of path that is very much like what you've been traipsing along for the last number of weeks now. But very quickly you note the change in what's under your feet. It goes from this like effort required to pull your feet out of the mud to this very not unstable but slightly more rolling gravel style path to something that is almost stone with some loose crag here and there. And then as another hour or so passes of this trek, you become distinctly aware that there's now an increasingly significant drop off one side of this path. The dwarf just peers over the side of the cart. I still prefer hills. No sodding canyons to die on. Anyway, this is quicker, so... And Claire.
Yes.
The D100, please.
Really?
Oh, really? Yeah.
I mean, are you sure about that? That'd be 30.
You can both roll in perception checks, please.
Are you sure I can't, like, intimidate this?
I'm very sure you can't intimidate this.
I got a 16.
Nice.
Roth got a 4.
Flurry, you have a rather upsetting feeling just in the very base of your gut that you're being observed. There's a rolling along this stone path that's taking you between what looks to be different mountains, like it's winding its way across between where two mountains joined. It's unsettling, like something is just watching.
I want to fall behind the group a bit,
Mm-hmm.
sort of observe from a bigger distance.
Okay. As you sort of fall a little bit further back from the group, unfortunately you don't really you don't see anything watching, but that feeling doesn't abate. It's still there, just in the pit of your stomach. Like something is ever so slightly amiss. Like something is observing us, watching us.
In that case, I'll walk back up to the group and tell them to be cautious and careful.
I look up.
There is something here. I don't know what it is, but I don't trust it.
I dislike being watched. I sigh. We should keep walking until this makes itself known.
Yes. Just keep your eyes open.
Just keep walking.
Mm-hmm. So you keep heading forward. Your pace continues, and it's another hour or so. You've reached that sort of what you realize is the maximum altitude of this path that takes you between these mountains. It's neither of you are from particularly like high inclines. The altitude you're now at is causing you some difficulty, like just in your chests from how thin the air is getting.
I thought you said this would be the easier part.
It is. So the dwarf says.
Was it so bad with the other one?
And that's probably bad left unsaid until you've experienced it.
I find that is never the case.
Well, you can ask the others when you get to the compound, to the outpost.
I just narrow my eyes.
So time continues to pass as you reach a point where essentially you are on a very singularly raised piece of land, like a land bridge that spans between, with a steep sort of drop on either side that spans this last gap between two mountains. You guys are looking at this. Is there any way you want to deal with this? Like you're just gonna, it's like you will have to walk single file, and you won't be able to go around the cart in this instance. Do you have a marching order for going through this?
I think Roth would probably offer to go first.
I'll go behind them.
Okay. So you guys begin pushing forward. And the cart gets about halfway across to a point where whoever's behind the cart can probably go over, but you couldn't go around the cart. And then there's this loud screech and the beating of large, leather-sounding wings.
I look up.
And you will see what I will describe to you in just a moment once I have an image of this. Please cut the section out, Claire. This is where my brain pulled the blank on what this creature is called and what it has described as. You see a creature that could, for a moment, almost be described as a dragon. It has strong, what look to be strong rear legs, and no forelimbs, but a long, like a wide leathery set of wings and scales. It does, however, have a much longer than average pointed tail, and it screeches as it swoops down. And just as it's coming towards you, you see, almost out of nowhere, a series of 4 arrows just snap into this thing's like 2 into its rib cage, 2 into the side of its head, and it just flops and slams into the ground just below the cart. And the ground you're on shudders slightly, and rocks begin falling away. And you hear a shout of, "Get across the bridge now!"
I look to the others and keep moving across the bridge.
The dwarven cart immediately start moving faster.
Yeah, I just cross the bridge.
As you get across the bridge and you get to the main body of this other mountain, you wrap around slightly. There is a pale-skinned human standing there with a bow in one hand and a quiver at their hip. And they go, "Well, luckily you got just over that in time. That thing's been stalking you for at least the last 2 hours."
Is that what it was?
Yep.
Us.
Yes, it followed you for 2 hours or so. Podge, he nods his head at the dwarf. Regan, as the dwarf says back. "Well, that's a sterling introduction from such a lout." He offers you his hand, Flurry. "Regan, just Regan. I'm from the outpost."
I am Flurry.
You don't shake hands, do you? No.
Is that what we do?
It's a cultural greeting, but if it's offensive to you, then I
let me try it. I take his hand with both my hands and I
like
shake
this.
it from left to right, probably.
That's okay. So you can do it like that, or you can just. He carefully takes you through shaking a hand like that. There you go.
What is the purpose of this?
It's a greeting. It's like saying hello. Say hello. I'm ringing you off for your hand. It's like a formal greeting.
I shall remember this.
He nods to you, Roth. Regardless, we got word that you guys will be coming. Ruffinius is currently keeping on the other wyverns to see if anyone else heard that. We should probably get a move on.
Of course.
The outpost's not far. We just have to skirt around the city to get to it. He gestures behind him. If you want to go around the corner, you'll get your first glimpse of the place we're trying to make home.
I stroll forward.
As you go round this sort of sharp corner, you see down below a large sprawling city that sits with a river essentially curving through its center. You see a ruined tower that seems to flicker slightly to its original perfect state, but around it you see ruined buildings. What is clearly something has scarred this town horribly, where there's just a row of what looks just to be rubble, like a great scar across the cityscape. You see a shattered bridge. And just beyond, so it is a walled city, but just beyond one of the walls, you see a series of what look to be relatively fancy-looking manor houses. And around one of these manor houses, one of these manor houses, you just see a single column of smoke rising. And this individual just pats you on the shoulder, points at the column of smoke, and goes, "That's home. That's the outpost." You've come this far, eh? You're almost there.
Yes, and he just moves on.
Right. Well, cool. This archer puts 2 of his fingers into his mouth, and it's a loud, like almost eagle-like shrilling whistle. And a couple of seconds later, there's a response that echoes, and then there's another blast the same noise, and he goes, right. Sounds like she's got 2 other wyverns you think might have heard the commotion.
Wyverns.
Yeah.
Creatures of legend.
Well,
I have never seen them.
I wouldn't call them creatures of legend. I'd call them fucking annoying. And here we best push off before they decide we're going to be their next meal. One's easy enough to drop with the concentrated fire, but 2 or 3 start causing problems because they won't come down here to fight us. And you guys don't look like the ranging type.
No. That has been pointed out.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I don't really fancy having to use this many arrows on them. So, let's get going, shall we?
Yes.
Keeps walking.
Okay. So you guys, this archer decides to bring up the rear. You guys keep heading down the this path. It stays single file, but it does only take about another half hour to reach a relatively low altitude. You realize you're now below the height of these hugely tall walls for this city. There you hear the sound of rocks tumbling, like small pebbles dancing down, and you hear the sound of what sounds to be like sliding, and an elf slides down this steep rock face and steps out in front of you guys. She nods at you. This is quite a bronze-skinned, brown-haired wood elf who inclines her head. She has a very ornate bow across her back, along with a quiver, and she has a pair of short swords at her hips. She offers you all a nod, but just stands straight backed and looks at Regan and goes, "We've got to keep moving. If you all wouldn't mind double timing it, we should probably keep running. There's more archers back at the outpost. I don't really fancy our chances out here with." As she looks up, more of them are coming, basically.
We can run, but it's whether you can keep up.
The elf just looks at you and just laughs.
I look specifically at the halfling and the dwarf.
The elf just walks over to the horse, and you see her she puts a hand to the horse's ear and just whispers in the horse's ear. And the horse just starts running.
That is my... Never mind. And I just run after it.
The elf she laughs. A very serene laugh as she also starts running. You hear a sigh, Flurry, before you set off from the human who goes, "I hate it when she does this."
I will keep an eye back for the dwarf. And
they're on the cart, so...
Oh, okay.
Right.
The human is slowly being left to trail slightly as he's trying desperately to keep up. He's like, "I hate it. Elven speed."
It's quite enjoyable.
He's like, "Not built to run like this."
I shrug.
But right now, this solid sprint is maintained for about 5 minutes until you guys realize you're skirting around, essentially around the walls, before you head out through, essentially through a small thicket of trees, to the very southern side of the city, and you pass through this thicket, and there is suddenly just what looks to be a very intentional felling of trees. So there's still stumps in the ground, and you can see up a hill. Is just what looks to be a wooden palisade of these bound and sharpened logs, and a small gate that's been cut into them. And your group come to a stop at this felling, and where this wood elf pulls out what looks to be like a handkerchief and just waves it overhead, and you hear, "We see you." And the gate starts to slowly be pulled open.
Mm-hmm.
And you are led into the outpost, which is on first observation of it, little more than a converted, battered old manor house ruin. The parts of the house that have survived both the war and then the intervening centuries is clearly being used for as living quarters. Some description, you can see people milling around. Other parts of the house have been patched up with wood as best they can be. And you can see there were tents and other bits of workshop have been set up. There's a communal cooking area, and there's a few other places where they've been built to store supplies and things. As you are brought into this main area, there is just a moment where a couple of people are looking at you guys, watching, and then a large, burly human plods up to you and throws some arms wide and goes, "Welcome to you all. Podge, good to see you made it. I see you brought the chef." He points to the halfling, who nods and goes, "Yep, that's me. And you two must be the ones the king has sent. Yes?"
Yes. I see news travels fast.
It does when it's transmitted in a manner that doesn't have to have a week's worth of walking involved. A pleasure to meet you both, and to meet you, Master Chef. Our quartermaster will show you to your cabin or your quarters, and to your duties, if that's okay. Looks at you guys, clearly more interested in the two of you. I'm Greg Cleaves. I'm in charge of defense of this outpost.
I go up and shake his hand. I know how to do this now.
He shakes your hand. You see, you know the greetings. Good. I'm glad.
I am Rolf Hammerfell, protector of the herd.
I mean, your herd's not here. I'd just go with protector for the time being.
It is different herd.
I guess that's one way of looking at it. Right. Well, welcome. We have some rooms on the ground floor set up for you both, if that's convenient.
Stairs are an issue.
There's a pause, as he's not really sure how to address this issue without coming off the wrong way. You'll forgive me if it's presumptuous, but we had presumed that might be the case. So, how about you settle in and we'll talk business,
Yes.
How does one settle?
That seems wise.
Take your possessions to your rooms, get to know your sleeping arrangements, some dry clothes.
That would be nice.
These
rooms, are they warm?
They should have a hearth on the conjoining wall, so yes, they should be warm for both of you.
What is a hearth?
A place for a fire inside.
Is that safe?
Yes, provided you don't go throwing the fire outside of the hearth.
Like a stone room.
Yes. Claire's dog taking a blanket. No, get wrecked.
This is my blanket.
Oh, poor Dexter.
I have a bed.
Sorry, Astrid. So you are led by this large human. He pushes a large set of double doors open into the lower area of the manor house, where you guys are led into what might once have originally been a pair of like large sitting rooms. And they've been converted into what looks to be bed chambers for the two of you. They have very crude locks on the inside, so they can be locked from the inside. It looks like they've made some additions to make it easier for you guys to get in, or more specifically for Roth to get into his room.
Yeah.
As the door was clearly not designed with a centaur's frame in mind.
I don't know what you're saying.
I think we all know what I'm saying. You have relatively nice rooms. They're quite spacious. You know that you have a connecting wall as you both have essentially a fireplace in that wall. But you have time to gather yourselves and get settled in. As you get the impression you're going to be given the grand tour at some point in the near future. And as you've arrived at the outpost, this makes a logical conclusion point for today's session.
Nice.
So,
Hey, Astrid, we made it
Yeah.
somewhere, didn't die.
Yay!
you made it
Finally.
to a location. You survived to travel to the base location.
Children unlocked.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is a reference to the last time we played a campaign where the party members died before they reached the next city.
Oops.
Oops, they consulted the Book of Vile Darkness,
I mean,
and then
give it to
everybody
us.
died. I gave it to you. I didn't say it'd be fun. I said it would be tempting, and you gave in to the temptations. It talked you into it.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Yeah.
it killed. It technically it killed one of them and made the other one its puppet.
Yeah.
It made both of them its puppet at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
That
So-
happens.
So, thank you, listeners, for listening to this session, and we hope that you'll enjoy it. Of course, this this campaign does go live for our Patreons on Patreon. Is it a week, 2 weeks before it is released to everybody else?
Somewhere between those two.